Welcome to the fourth monthly meeting of the group without a name still. One of these days we'll settle on a name, but for now we will just continue to be the Old Town Timnath organizing group or something like that. We don't really know. How many people are here for the first time tonight? Oh wow, lots of you. Well, welcome. I hope we've captured your contact information so you get announcements about future meetings. We do meet once a month on the third Thursday right here. So you're always welcome to those. Just as a little background for those of you who are here for the first time, we've adopted three objectives for this group. One is to build community, like we're doing tonight. Another is being a catalyst for revitalization of Old Town in a way that's consistent with a comprehensive plan. And the third is to create a unified voice for Old Town Timnath. And tonight, for the first time, we have guests, and I'm very happy to introduce Don Taranto, who is our Director of Public Works. Aaron Adams is the town manager, and Matt Blakely is the Director of Community Development. And they have prepared a short presentation for us. We gave them a list of topics of interest, and they've prepared a short presentation. And then Becca and I are going to have a facilitated conversation with them, and we will pause at 3 times during that conversation for you to ask questions. And you can either, we'll be passing them around if you want to do that, or we have question cards, and you can just pass those forward or to the end of the aisle, and you can ask questions that way. You can also just use these question cards to take notes if that's your preference. So we have a few ground rules for tonight. One is that you be brief and to the point with your question. Of course, we want you to be civil and respectful, and also remember that a question mark ends with a question. So no statements, no rants, questions for our panelists, please. Okay. And I think with that, are you folks ready to get started?
Well, thank you all. Hopefully you can all hear me. I'm speaking through the mask. My youngest actually tested positive for COVID just this morning. I tested negative before I came here tonight. I did test negative. I feel fine, and I'm vaccinated all the way across, but I am wearing the mask just as an abundance of caution based on that. But we are happy to be here. As Wade said, my name is Aaron Adams, and I'm the town manager in Timnath. And we're going to speak just for a couple of minutes. And I'm not sure if we're going to launch straight into the topics, because we would probably use most of the time if we go down that list. So what we'll probably do is I'll do a very brief introductory remarks about us and kind of our roles and responsibilities in the town. I think those comments can kind of help so you know who has what role within the town. Maybe I'll start with our town council. So that's our elected body, and everything starts at the top with those folks. And what I think is probably the most important for you to know about them is they serve in 2 primary functions, which are setting the policy and the vision for the community. I'm going to count that as one. And then they also set the budget. So they control the purse strings, and they set the high-level vision and the policy. The next going down, if you were looking at an org chart, would be my role as the town manager. So my boss is actually bosses. I have 5 of them. It's the mayor and 4 council members, and I report directly to them. So they set the vision, they allocate the money, and my job is to make sure that that vision is realized, and hopefully with the amount of money that they've allocated us with. That's a little bit of a joke. I have to. We can't overspend. We're not like the feds. We can't borrow. So, or at least not to go into debt that way. Anyways, that's a whole other topic. And the next role would be our staff, folks not me. And so with the exception of our municipal judge and our town attorney, all the other employees either directly or indirectly roll up to my position. And so my job is to take the vision that comes from our town council, the direction that they give, and to the best of my ability, give them advice back, maybe to refine the vision, and then make sure we have efficient implementation by our staff of that vision. Now, I think that's an important foundation because as we talk tonight, there might be questions that arise or concerns, and it may be things that the three of us cannot change. And that might be because of state statute or other limitations, or it might just be because that's not the direction that we have been given by the council, and it might require a change in direction by our council. So to that end, over on this table over here, we have flyers. November 10th, there will be a council chat, and that council chat is going to be Old Town centric. That will be the topic for the night. The only topic for the night will be Old Town. Our council members cannot meet in a quorum without a public notice because it becomes a public meeting. That is noticed as a public meeting. This is the first time we have done that for a council chat, and we anticipate you will have 80% of the council there. We have one who has a conflict, but if they don't suffer the same fate my son did or any other unforeseen event, there will be 4 out of the 5 of them there that night, and you'll be able to talk to them directly, the budget and policy setters for the town of Timnath. So with that in mind, Wade was kind enough to share some topics. This is more or less what we have prepared. Format-wise, we are prepared to speak briefly about each of these topics, or we can let you launch into questions. I'm
To do brief remarks on each or most of them, and then we'll cover a lot of them in greater depth.
Do you want to ask questions after each one of them, or just go through them all?
Okay, with that, then I'm going to hand it to Matt, who is, again, he's our Community Development Director. This is Don, Public Works, and Matt's going to talk to you about the comprehensive plan.
Thanks, Aaron. Let's see if I can see my notes and talk. Well, welcome everybody. It's great to see you all here. I know there's some new faces and some old faces seeing in town here. So comprehensive plan, I just want to give a little bit of background on how it works, what it is, and why we do that. We update the comprehensive plan periodically. It's every 5 or so years. The last one was done in 2013. We just did one in 2020, so the next one would probably be 2025, 26, based on changing environment. It's prepared by a consultant, so there's a third party that's hired to do this that has expertise in developing comprehensive plans. We have steering committees that is made up of some residents, business owners, planning commission members who are residents in town. That steering committee, stakeholders, key stakeholders such as adjacent development, adjacent property owners, developers, communities, Larimer County and other counties that abut us. And then the community as a whole. So there's a public input. There's always a public outreach component, and it's a heavy hand in the comprehensive plan. So it is not a staff-directed thing. It is a community document that is built off of lots of public input. So that is a document that a lot of people have their hand in. What it is, though, is we do generally an overview of the current town situation based on where it is when the comp plan is developed. It actually sets goals, 10 to 15-year time horizons and longer, but the goals are generally to try to achieve those things in 10 to 15 years. There's objectives, and those objectives are actually ways that can actually meet those goals. So a goal is just a lofty thing. We want to be this. And here are some ways to do that. Those are the objectives. And then there are action items, the specific steps that can be taken to meet those goals. A comp plan is not a regulatory document, so it's not actually, it doesn't have a legal standing where you have to do certain things. It is a guiding document. So this is something that trips some people up a bit. It is giving us a pathway for where the future is. It is not a beat people over the head with kind of a document, just setting the stage for that. The 2020 comp plan does, actually, we included a segment on Old Town specifically. So we looked at Old Town with all community members at that time to look at what Old Town would look like and how it would develop. I do have a map that shows that, and Kim, if you don't mind just showing that real quick. This is the map of the Old Town comp plan framework. The framework map shows how the land uses would lay out in Old Town in the future and with the current situation. So a lot of things you see up there in color, the yellow areas are residential, single family. The red areas could be mixed use, could be single family moving towards commercial or business types of uses. The brown area is actually the school property, where they have a site for a middle and high school. And then the black lines are roads and or future trail or other connections. The comp plan it comes with several goals and objectives for Old Town specifically. A lot of those things are ongoing that the town is working on, or they're very aspirational. They are saying things like we're going to encourage and promote. They are places to be aspirational, but some of the things are actually concrete things that we can do, and we are actually ongoing and doing. So I'm going to turn over to, can we go back to that slide? I'll have Don talk about Old Town infrastructure.
Thanks, Matt. And I'll be brief with this and anticipate some questions in the future. But if you look back about 14 years ago, the town embarked on infrastructure improvements for Old Town. And in that time, the construction started about 13 years ago and took many years to get done. But they built, among other things, roads, streets, curb and gutter, drainage, water, sewer improvements, and landscaping on Main Street. They built that to the tune of about $11.6 million. This is a unique circumstance because it's just a unique investment that the town made in Old Town. Before that, the only paved street that was here was Main Street. And so it was a very, let's just say, aggressive move by the town to improve this area of town, and they did it. And everybody here, I think, can see that those improvements have benefited Old Town in a noticeable way. I think that's all I have to say about that. I'm sure there might be some questions about it moving forward, but I'm going to move it back to Aaron.
Yeah, and I'm going to talk about Main Street just very briefly in the Parkway. This is another topic we anticipate you might have questions about. But, Matt actually just talked quite a bit about a comprehensive plan. Back in 2002, there was the town did a comprehensive plan update in 2002. And at that time, they knew Main Street would not be able to carry the eventual traffic load as it sits. That to be able to handle the traffic that they anticipated, that Main Street would have to do one of two things, and probably both of those things, which would be to widen and to increase its speed limit. And when I say widen, I would mean removal of structures and everybody's front yard. Some of the buildings that exist now would have had to be removed for the amount of right-of-way needed to expand the road. And then speed limits that we would think would be unsafe for residential neighborhoods. So with that in mind, in 2002, the comprehensive plan identified a goal of building a parkway. And so you can see a stub of the parkway, and it is laid out to be able to accommodate that kind of traffic. And so with that, the parkway will be able to move cars more efficiently. It'll be set up as a boulevard, and we'll get people who are passing through and not stopping in Old Town through. But it also provides means to get into Old Town. It'll have Cornhusk, 2nd and 4th Streets, and Busgrove will all allow access back to Main Street. And we believe those will help to keep the residents and the businesses along Main Street viable. And so with that, I'll stop anticipating that we'll probably want to talk about that more later. And I think we're going back to Don for the next one.
Okay, the next one is the Old Town Fire Station, which has been a topic of conversation for some time. And we knew there were structural, let's say, issues. And so we commissioned a structural engineer to evaluate the Old Town Fire Station. And we got that report recently. So it's available and it'll be disseminated. It's got to go to the council first. They're going to then make the decision to put it out, but we believe they're going to put it on the website so it'll be available for everybody. I think there are some, let's just say there are some issues with the building, but they're shown in the report and they're ready for everybody to look at. Let me see. I got to look at my notes now. The fire station, it is an important part of Public Works right now because it's a storage area for us. And as I think most of you know, the Public Works and the police kind of cohabitate in 4800 Goodman. In the very near future, the police are going to be moving out, and so Public Works will have that entire building. At that time, we'll have some more space to be able to maneuver stuff, but between now and then, and the logistics of moving what we use the fire station for is going to be evolving over the next, I'm going to say, 3 to 6 months. So after that, we'll have a plan, and I think then it'll volley back to the council to determine what the fate of the fire station might be. I know we've got a lot of questions about selling it. We've got a lot of questions about those sort of things. That's up to the council, and that's in the future. It'll be in a position that they can make some decisions on that in the very near future.
And just, Don mentioned the plan. It is already on our website. So if you're curious to read it, it already is out there.
I'm going to talk a little bit about the Timnath Landing development. And Kim, can you bring up the map? Thank you. This development is actually, it abuts Old Town to the east. It goes all the way over and it abuts Harmony Club on its east edge. Harmony Road is on the south side and Bus Grove is on the north side. And you can see in this is a sketch plan up here. It was actually approved in 2015. There was a original sketch plan that was done in 2008 that was amended for this one. The property has gone through couple of hands of ownership, and it's been under a few opportunities to changes. What you see on the map up there is actually about 1,000 or more dwelling units. There's actually a lot of mixed use on it. The areas that are in red or in other colors other than there's like a tan and a lighter off-white and blue. Those are all the single-family residential, and then the southern portion where it's the red area is either higher density or mixed-use types of development, and that's mostly on the south side of the railroad tracks. There is an area though that's between. If you can actually see on here, the parkway is a little bit clearer shown. You can see that there's I don't know if you can read it, but it says MU4 and MU2. Those areas, actually, the town acquired those properties. I don't remember the date, but they acquired it several years ago. And for the purpose of preserving that for potential mixed use or continued development. Oh, you're pointing. Okay, thanks.
Maine. This is Maine.
Okay.
This is the parkway, and this is what Matt is describing right here.
Yep. Harmony Road is at the bottom, and Bus Grove is at the north. And you actually can't see it very well, but Main Street, it's shaded. It's kind of shaded out. All the Old Town is in the gray area. All the colored areas is all the new.
Where are we?
Okay. All right. Okay. All right. I'll get our bearings. We're sitting right here right now. Okay. 4th Avenue is right here. This is the parkway coming up this way. The railroad tracks is a diagonal here. This is the David Weekley homes that are being built or almost all done right now. Second Avenue is this street right here. It comes down. There's a roundabout there at Signal Tree that heads south there. So currently Main Street goes straight through here north. As you drive on Main Street, you can see the parkway where it's a large open field basically, and then there's a big detention pond. You can see it kind of going off in that direction. If you drive on 2nd Avenue, you'll cross over the parkway. There's a couple of stop signs there, and if you look left and right, you can see where it is. The purpose for talking through the rest of the sketch plan, though, is there's a series of lakes. You've probably seen those. Those are all have trails and open space associated with them, parks, and it's all open to the public, and it'll be a part of the trail network, and it'll connect into Old Town. But the point I wanted to make was that the town did purchase the portion that I was pointing at, this MU4 and MU2, that was actually single-family residential homes on their original plan. And had it been for the town acquiring that ground several years ago, that would be developed much like what you're seeing just here south of the railroad tracks. Is that everything I had for that? I'm sure there will be many questions about it, and we can bring this back up if we have it. Don, you want to talk about it?
Of course. Old Town maintenance. Public Works is responsible for the maintenance associated with Old Town infrastructure, meaning the streets, the roads, the landscaping on Main Street, and then all the streets within the rest of the neighborhoods of Old Town. In addition to that, we have, obviously we do all the maintenance of those components. We have a street sweeper, which I'm sure you've seen, and we sweep the town 4 times a year, and we have a schedule that you can see online that shows you approximately when we'll be sweeping different areas. We just swept Old Town, if I remember right, early this month. In addition to that, we have a full-time arborist that is a consultant that the town uses to evaluate the trees and the landscaping, which, it's in a relatively harsh environment, and we use these folks to evaluate the health of the trees and everything in Old Town on an annual basis. So I'm sure there'll be more questions about maintenance in Old Town, but that's my high-level look at it at the moment.
And I'll take the second part of that equation, and it's code compliance. So I have a code enforcement officer that actually is in town 5 days a week. He actually looks at all of town, not just Old Town, but Old Town is one of the places that he's looking at. And in some things he sees and he addresses with the property owner, reaches out to them, courtesy notice, and we try to work for voluntary compliance. This was at council's direction. It was to work with people to actually help them and get things into compliance with the code, versus being punitive and fining and taking people to court. So, but we have that at our disposal if we need it, but we try to work with residents on all those fronts. However, so he doesn't see everything. That's, there are things that sometimes get through. There are things that you may think are a code violation, but may not be a code violation. And if it's not a code violation, he won't do anything about it. But if you have something that you think is a code violation, the best approach is to identify it and submit a form on our online, and I get them, and our code enforcement officer gets them. We see every one of those. And we ask that we require actually that you include your name and contact information so that we can reach out to you if we need to make contact. A lot of times we don't actually make contact back with you. We just we investigate, and if it is a problem, we'll go and address it. If it isn't a problem, then we'll be done with the topic. So you may never hear from us on it, and you may never see any change. But if it doesn't change, it doesn't necessarily mean, you may still think it's a code violation, and we can try to explain it to you what constitutes a violation. Here.
Yeah, so I'm going to take the next, actually 3 in a row, which kind of all go a little bit they dovetail a little bit. So I'm going to talk about Old Town economic revitalization, Old Town business preservation, and financial incentives. So, and again, I know we're buzzing through this very quickly. We're trying to be respectful of your time to get to the questions quickly. And we are respectful of the 7:30 stop too, knowing you guys have business, and you can probably tell I have a football game to get to also. So with Old Town economic revitalization, the biggest role for the town is actually, I think, to set the table. And so Don mentioned it earlier, but about $11.5 million have been invested by the town to set the table for development of Old Town. That includes the streets, the sewers, the water, all those pieces and parts that he can speak to better than I can. But without those, development of Old Town's just not feasible or possible. And the Parkway is an important part of that as well. I will tell you that the town council and us as a staff, we are working on policy that will help incentivize. And part of that, this policy is not finalized, but we do have a specific criteria that would give incentive to development of Old Town, that we want to make that a specific criteria that would help someone seeking incentives from the town. With that being said, much of the development and revitalization will fall on private folks who will invest into the community. And for that reason, as I said, our most critical role really is to help lay a foundation that would make private investment viable. And so I'm going to leave that one there and move on to business preservation strategies. This one will be very short. At this point, there is no formal policy from our council. So we do not engage in that activity at this point. That is not something we have been authorized to do. And then last one, use of financial incentives for business development. Again, I'm going to try to be very brief here. I think what might be most important to know is the guiding philosophy of the council is to save incentives for businesses who will be adding to the town's economy. The town does not incentivize residential development. I have been asked that before. I think that's an important point to clarify. So when you see the subdivisions going up and around, all around, the town does not incentivize that development. What they try to do is focus on sharing back a portion of new money that the business brings to the community. Many businesses, as they locate here, are driving sales tax, which is our primary revenue source. And so at times we will share a portion of that back with the developer for a finite period of time. And so the town brings in new money and shares some of it back. Again, in the interest of time, I'll stop there and certainly allow you guys to follow up with questions as you see appropriate.
And the last topic that we have is development along Harmony Road. This can be very simple. It is most of the property is privately held, private ownership, and as developers would come to the town, they'd have to meet a set of criteria, Harmony Corridor standards. Those that have been put in place to regulate look and feel, and the parameters around what types of uses can go there. They have to meet all the zoning of the town, but it's really up to those private property owners. If you're talking about what is actually coming, there are a few things that are online that you can look at on our website. You can find what projects. We have a development under review page. There's a map. You can click on them and it can figure out which projects have been submitted to the town, and then learn all about them, download the files, and review what's being proposed. But it's whatever's being developed there and applied for, we review it against our application requirements, and then we'll post it on that website. One of the other things you can do is you can subscribe to that web page, and you'll get an email notice monthly on what's happening, and or if there's new development coming, you can see that as well. So I think that's all we have on that, but certainly we have lots of questions, I'm certain about that.
All right, thank you so much for those brief definitions of those topics. So the way that this is going to work is that we have prepared a few questions that have come up through various conversations at meetings and things like that. We will ask those and then open up to you guys for questions and do that a couple times back and forth. So please, if a question's already been asked or you're just asking a reiteration, to just make sure you are conscious of people's time. All right, so starting simply, this was going to be a question for every one of you. What thing or aspect of the comp plan excites you personally the most?
Let Aaron start.
Well, I think what I would say is, goodness, well, you caught me a little bit on my heels a little bit, I'll admit. What I'll talk about is maybe, so I've been here in the community 2 years. And so in the process of coming out and interviewing and preparing, I did look at the comp plan. And more than any one specific element, I think what I appreciate most about it is the forethought, which was reinforced as I had the ability to come out here, that I would give credit to previous folks and previous elected folks who want Timnath to be set apart, to not just blend into the background, to become essentially the same as Fort Collins. I think there's been a very thoughtful approach. Secondarily, just maybe the context is important, but I was leaving a community in rural Iowa of about 7,500. Between 2010 and 2020, with the two censuses, the population of that community went from 7,300 to 7,500. In the same time frame, Timnath went from, and I don't know the exact numbers, but it went from about 550 to about 6,500. And so for me, it was an opportunity to see the growth and to help be a part of that. And I know that's not directly tied to the comp plan, but I think it refers back to my first comment, which is I think that the town's been very thoughtful in the way it's laid itself out and set itself apart.
So I've been involved in two of these comp plan amendments, actually. So in the 2013 one and the 2020, very heavily a part of the process. And what excited me the most about it was the enthusiasm of the town and the individuals here that they have for the growth and development. And the real thoughtful process that went into it in developing a plan that is that's achievable, that is has good vision, and it has an appropriateness. We're not trying. The town of Timnath isn't trying to be something it's not. So what I really appreciated was the public insight and the actually collaborative aspect of it, and I'm proud and happy to be a part of seeing it come through, and actually how rapidly things happen in Timnath, that to actually put a plan out that actually starts and actually moves along the pathway. So those things are exciting because not many communities can actually see a comp plan happen in that short window. A lot of places put it out there and it just sits and nothing comes of it. And in this case, we see things happening daily, monthly, yearly.
Yeah, I'm going to just dovetail on that. I mean, I've been at engineering it at least for a long period of time, and it's very rare that you see a situation or a town that has the velocity that this town has, with the vision that it has for being a unique community. And what Matt said is exactly right. When you see this, when you're involved with something that you've got a plan and you see it materializing right in front of your eyes on a monthly basis, it's a very exciting situation to be involved with. And I think from my standpoint, that's a unique situation. It just doesn't happen very often, and everybody here should be, happy with it, because what we've always said, if you're not growing, you're dying, and this place is actually growing.
Thank you. And we will definitely dive into these deeper topics, but Aaron, you had mentioned a little description of your role being the lead, that kind of focal point between the council and the town staff. My question is, how do you balance being a leader in the community and a decision maker in a lot of ways versus a behind-the-scenes implementer of the town council? Where do you see your role in those, specifically as far as implementation versus a leader in a community?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. I think the best way to answer that is that I try to be adaptable. I think you have to be when you have 5 bosses, as I do, especially when those bosses are politicians and that their ideas and priorities might change. And I think it's important to think of them. It's like for those of you who have kids, especially if you have more than one, the personalities are different, right? So the council works the same way. And so some folks are more forceful with their agenda and others are more open to guidance. And so I would say my role is not static. It's dynamic all the time, and I have to be fluid. And so I don't want to give the impression that I don't always give my best recommendation. I would also point out, I think this is really important to know, without trying to give a long history lecture, but the city manager position actually started a little over 100 years ago, specifically to give apolitical advice, professional apolitical advice. It came specifically out of people who were tired of Tammany Hall or any of the other political machines of New York and Chicago. And everyone in my field who subscribes to our professional organization, which I do and most of us do, we abide by a code of ethics. We can be taken out of our positions. We can be removed from that organization for violating those ethics. And so in my role, politics is not allowed whatsoever. And so that's an important consideration when I try to strike that line. So I don't want to ramble too long, and I don't know if I'm even answering the question with what you want, but it changes day by day, and it changes by who I'm talking to. My goal is to always provide the best professional advice to our council and then effectively implement it to the best of my ability and that of our staff.
With all due respect, these people aren't running for office. Can we get to something that's germane to this group's interests?
All right, let's try with this. Don, this one's for you. How would you characterize the infrastructure and maintenance needs of Old Town versus newer developments built through metro districts?
Okay, they're not as different as you might think right now, because most of the infrastructure in Old Town now is new. Most of the infrastructure associated with the new developments is new. And so what we do is we put them on programs for maintenance. You might see in other areas of the community older streets that get, I'm going to call them seal coat, but they're more than that. We crack seal things. We stay ahead of the maintenance associated with the roads, because if you don't, they will deteriorate to the point that they have to be completely rebuilt. So to try to answer your question, I don't know that there's a lot of difference between Old Town and the rest of Timnath, just because of the vintage of the infrastructure.
Just to follow up on that, in terms of funding, how about that? Is there a distinction there to be made of how maintenance is funded?
No,
No.
there is no difference.
Yeah. If you could just hold your question, we're going to pause shortly for questions. Yeah. Okay, and Matt, a question for you. What tools does the town have at its disposal to revitalize Old Town in a manner that is consistent with the comprehensive plan?
What tools? Well, I think that's it's definitely dependent upon development. So our tools are the zoning and land use code that we require everybody to abide by. And so if development comes in, we will review it against the requirements, and those will be how we process a development application. So there aren't, I mean, we don't really have tools. It's more of an enforcement of the plans. So,
Okay.
is there tools that you can think of?
And what is the town's implementation strategy for the parcel of land that you mentioned earlier that is known as the Artisan District?
Again, that is the town has that property. There's, I guess, potential development opportunity when the time comes. The council will need to make a decision on how they want to approach that. At the moment, whatever's in the comp plan for that is the vision on the table, and that can change as the council's direction changes. And when the timing is right, I would anticipate that that's when the council would take action on it.
Okay. All right, we're going to pause here for questions on anything covered at this point. Are you ready?
Oh, yes.
If you would please use the microphone.
Hi, Maren van der Graaf, 431 Main Street, Old Town. So I've been here for 21, 22 years, when it was just 220 people in Timnath. My question is regarding Old Town infrastructure and Main Street. As per all of the sewer streetscape was put in, the power lines were never put underground as promised. I spoke to your son several times years ago. So everybody on Main Street would landscape, but we were waiting still for them to be put under.
Got it.
So that's one thing. What is the timeline on that? Second is, what is the timeline on the Parkway? That's my question.
Okay, I'll take them both. Okay, so the timeline on the undergrounding is a funding related issue, and so we have spent all the money we can right now. We don't have any additional funds for undergrounding. However, we do have a plan. There's a program with Excel that we can borrow against undergrounding components of the funds that are available. We've borrowed everything we could to underground what we have. So I would suggest to you that it's going to be several years out there before the rest of it gets undergrounded.
This has been answered several times, because every time it says the time has elapsed, and therefore you have to request refunding again or something.
Yes.
I mean, that's what I heard from your son.
Yes.
So that was several times, so it's like it just keeps on moving.
Well, and we have to accumulate enough dollars to be able to do it, and it's a lot of money to underground this stuff.
The problem is like with the power outage we've had with, north of town.
Okay, that's a power provider issue. Okay, that's not the town's. As it relates to the Parkway, you will see Parkway. Right now, it's planned that you will see Parkway improvements starting next year. Excuse me? I don't know exactly. The schedule that's been proposed to us would have it, at least the north portion of it, completed next year. The southern portion of it will depend on the railroad crossing. So we'll see. As everybody probably knows, dealing with the railroad is not an exact science.
Is the new building area of the landings around the lakes, does that depend on the Parkway being there as an access point?
It depends on the northern part of it.
Oh, that's being off.
Correct. No, that's the southern part.
Oh, okay.
4th Avenue North.
Right, and just wanted to clarify with the undergrounding, so it's a budget issue and a budget priority issue
But initially, it should have been in the first phase.
for the undergrounding? Okay, so then therefore it's a council issue since it's
It
a
absolutely
budget
is.
and financial concern?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
My name is Jamie Crawford. Hi, Matt. Nice to meet you. We've been talking for about a year and a half. I am co-owner of Colorado Video Productions, and so we've been poking around Main Street, all the vacant buildings for years, the fire hall, and so I've been in touch with Matt, and he's educated me about the area. And so tying in the financial incentives for business development, a way to get new money would be to let all of these businesses hop in to invest in Old Town, do it. There's so many vacant, dead buildings there. If, I know they have structural issues, but if you sell it to them cheap enough, people will invest and invigorate downtown, and we want that. I think the community wants that. So would that be something you would consider? And if so, how do we get movement on that? Because with all the vacant buildings, it just doesn't make sense to me that they're sitting there rotting.
Well, the town doesn't own all of them, but the ones the town
Yeah.
does own, I think I know that's a council directive. They've given us a directive to sell some of those. And now that we have the report that we needed for the fire station, it's back in their court, and I expect to get a decision very soon.
Okay, and so for interested businesses, what can we do? Do we advocate to town council, write letters? What do we do to really get their attention? Because I know this is your job. We can kind of be a bit more aggressive. There's so many entrepreneurs that I know that want to invest. How do we get their attention and get
I think
some
you
movement?
you can do all the above.
Okay.
And the town has gotten a real estate agent
great.
to represent the town on all of those.
Oh, great.
It's
Who is it?
Very recent.
Yeah,
It's
get
CBRE.
CBRE? Okay,
Yep.
good to know.
Yep, and they will have a lot of these things on the market at whenever the council tells us to do that. It will.
Hi, thanks for being here. Matt Wasserman from Timnath Lakes, and there's a myriad of funding available for Old Town revitalization in Colorado through ARPA, through the county commissioner, through the county, through the state, through CDOT, through DOLA, and our neighbors, Wellington, Berthoud, Windsor, have received a substantial amount of funding from these sources. Has the town ever requested or put in a proposal for these resources for Old Town revitalization?
We've gotten some CDOT funds for trail work. We've gotten CDOT funds for Harmony Road. We've gotten GOCO grants for trail projects. We haven't done any outreach for a Main Street program or other programs. So those are opportunities. If that's the direction that we're pushed towards, then we will go after those as well.
Is there a reason for not contacting those? Just timing.
I mean, yeah, do you have a reason for it? I mean,
Okay, one more. Oh, sorry. Did I interrupt you? I'm sorry.
go ahead.
Okay.
It just hasn't been done yet, no.
All right, we have one more question, and then we'll go back to some of the prepared questions. Has the town considered erecting a public restroom in a central location so new, very small businesses don't have to provide public restrooms?
Have not considered that.
Would you?
Possibly if the Artisan District property is a candidate for something like that, it may be a place to incorporate that and parking and other outdoor opportunities. So that could be a place for it.
All right. This is another question for Matt regarding the Timnath Parkway. It's intended to move the bulk of traffic, as you mentioned, through town. So why is keeping Main Street fully open not an option? You mentioned why Main Street can't be the primary thoroughfare, but why does it need to be closed? In other words, why can't it be both areas? Yeah, that's
Okay. So I've heard this quite a bit lately, and I think there's a terminology challenge. Is that closed means that you can't get onto Main Street. The plan is that you can still get to Main Street. So the Parkway is, Kim, do you mind bringing that map up? Yep, that'll work. So the Parkway, as you see from Harmony Road, it starts north and it deviates and goes east, and then it goes north again. There's no place to be able to have a direct connection to Main Street at this location. So the place where you can get over to Main Street is either 2nd Avenue or on 4th Avenue. And that'll get you to Main Street. But Cornhusk is a right in, right out, so you can get in onto it by turning right as you're going south, or as you can leave by going right, heading south. So it is Main Street is open from here all the way north. So and it's connected to the Parkway here and there, and up at Busgrove. And potentially, actually, when the school district develops, there may be another connection on that north end.
When working on this plan, were there discussions about the considerations of the quote-unquote winners or losers of how did your thought process of how this would affect the businesses and residents on Main Street function while you were making that plan?
So it was decided in 2002, so nobody sitting at this table initially thought up the Parkway. So if you think about 2002 and who lived in Timnath, the idea came from Old Town residents. There was no other place in Timnath with folks. So we have a comprehensive plan 20 years ago where this Parkway was planned out. And it's been reaffirmed in every subsequent planning document since then. So I can't speak to the specific considerations from 20 years ago, but at the time that was considered the best engineering option and has been put forward and continued since then.
Thank you, that's helpful. And then another follow-up to that is, so this is happening, it's halfway cleared right now. What further considerations has the town and its staff discussed in regards to supporting those who are affected negatively by this Parkway, signage, and other support for the businesses along Main Street?
Yeah, we've heard this comment quite a bit, and we're very interested in dealing with it from the standpoint, I think, of signage. I think good signage along the Parkway, directing people that want to go to the core of Old Town and to the opportunities that are there, business or whatever. I mean, signage is a perfect thing. I think it's the best of both worlds. You don't have the traffic that would have eliminated a lot of, let's say, parking and other issues in Old Town, and you still have the benefit of a parkway that's going to have 16,000 cars a day in a few years going up and down it with the signage that directs those people who want to go to Old Town.
Okay, we're gonna.
I do want to say, though, from our perspective and the council's perspective, Old Town and Main Street is an important asset, and the Parkway is not intended to winners and losers. It's actually, in a lot of ways, it will help because you have now a pathway. So there are folks that live and have streets or their driveways that back onto it. I mean, on the south end of railroad tracks, that having 16,000 trips a day is just not palatable. I mean, you wouldn't be able to back out. But so the Parkway is on the one edge, and then there's opportunities to actually, with signage or other things. We're all on board with trying to get people to Main Street and support the businesses there. So.
Okay, we're gonna break. No, we're gonna break for questions now. Somebody have a question?
Okay, I keep hearing everyone talk about signage and things like that. Well, how come we can't even get a sign that directs people to the gravel parking lot that's behind Beer Works for people to park there? We've got people parking across people's driveways and stuff because they don't think there's any place else to park. And every town survey, I've said, why don't we have signage saying that there is public parking back there.
Thank you. Matt's writing notes. We appreciate that.
Okay, so that means it's on a consideration list, shall we call it?
Yeah, perfect.
Okay, all right, sir.
My name is Don Olson. I live right over here on Third. I have several questions. How much money do you have in the bank? How much money do you have in the bank?
Do you want us to buy your property?
Okay, that was kind of a humorous thing. What's happening with Alpine Cabinets, which is right in the heart of everything? We are just downwind of them, in case you don't know where Third is.
I mean, they're a private business and they're still allowed to operate.
Let me just throw another thing out. Long as we're talking about traffic, what the hell are we doing adding a 7-Eleven to our already overburdened Harmony?
It's private property owner, private developer. They're allowed to put in a project that meets the zoning and the requirements. As long as it meets the requirements.
Really quickly, in regards to any kind of property proposals, development, anything like that, there are 2 upcoming council meetings as well as this town council chat. But at the council meetings, if you're concerned about 7-Eleven, Topgolf, McDonald's, any of those other development things, you can do an open forum conversation at the town council. That's what we'd encourage, so that the council can hear these concerns as well.
Hi, hello, my name is Lindsay Miller. I own the Hidden Stem just down the road, and I have spoken a few times at council meetings, and I'm trying to evolve my questions to get the proper answer. So, it seems like the town continues to speak of business development in the context of large business developments, sales tax revenue, and the ease of working with different businesses. But it seems that those of us that are here in the downtown corridor are mostly concerned about small business and how to continue to incentivize small business owners such as myself and Becca and others and Michelle, who, may not have like massive financial means like Floor and Decor and Top Golf. And we are not looking for financial concessions necessarily, but maybe just like permit concessions or just compromising. And so I guess my main question is, how are you guys really incentivizing small business to downtown? Because when people are talking in this meeting about bringing business to Timnath, they're not talking about the I-25 corridor. They're talking about small mom and pop restaurants, boutiques. I've heard ice cream parlor. I've heard wine and tapas. I would love to see those things develop, and I would love to know how the town plans to support that.
Yep, no, I appreciate that. It's a good question. Yeah, no, thank you. No, that's good. So I mentioned earlier, we are working on a policy right now, and it will have a component for floor and decor and that type. But it will have a second separate component to it that will be for small business. And what we're trying to do, and I think we would be open to a conversation to get some input on it from you folks, but exactly what you're talking about. So we can talk about flexibility when we talk about paying for things related to building permits. What we can't be flexible on is code. So code compliance is a not negotiable, but we can talk about ways of maybe potentially reducing that. We have not finalized that proposal. The council has talked a little bit about the idea of potentially loans or potentially forgivable loans, grants. So none of those things are official, but those are some of the specific things that are on the table and in discussion as we speak. So I think we would be open to feedback even now to refine that policy. And and I think those are things, but we would be open to that conversation because I think those would be things that would go directly to a smaller business.
And what forum would that conversation take place?
You can reach out to me if you like.
Email?
Sure. Yeah.
All right, so we're right at 7:30, so we are going to continue opening it up for a few last burning questions. However, if your questions do not get chosen, the council is hosting the council chat November 10th. We have flyers here. Please grab them. It's 1 hour. You said there will be, if not all, most of the council members there. Bring your questions, comments, concerns. So that is the next step past this meeting to make those concerns and these questions heard beyond this panel. All right, so any questions? We want to keep it to questions about Old Town.
Okay, so you had mentioned that we have 5 council members, is that it? I'm Christine Landon, by the way, from Harmony Club. I've lived here for 5 years. And you said that they're politicians, and the thing I'm concerned about is the diversity of the council and their diversity of thought, their backgrounds, and whether they're all in it together or whether you really are not only taking their input, but the community's input, because some of the recent issues that have come up, it appears that they haven't been as transparent as we would like, and we really want to make sure that not only we have a diverse council, but you hear the diversity of thought from all the folks here and the rest of our town.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I get 1 vote, just like all of you all who live here in Timnath. I can't drum up diversity. So specifically, I'm barred from even talking to somebody. So if you came to me and wanted my endorsement, I could never do that. If you asked me who I thought would be a good candidate, I also can't do that. So in my specific role, apolitical, I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just telling you that's really not in my wheelhouse or purview. In fact, that's like kryptonite for me, specifically. So.
But we'll get to see the town council in one of the next meetings and kind of get to know them and what their thought is, because that's important for us to understand.
Absolutely.
One way or more objective or diverse.
Yep.
It's very important in making these kind of decisions.
No, I totally agree. Yep. I would encourage you to take advantage of that and other opportunities. Yeah, for sure.
So regarding the topic tonight, Old Town, I just want to make a comment actually. When you speak about Old Town, make specific about north of the tracks, railroad tracks, and south, because south is basically residential, north is business. That's been my pet peeve for years, is that it's a very different game. So please, in your next meetings or topics or chats, be specific when you talk about north or south of the tracks. Thanks.
We also have some questions they'd like to ask.
I'm script for Matt. I'm talking.
Oh, be loud.
Matt. No, Matt, when we were talking about the parkway and keeping that little, not little crazy roundabout, not roundabout, that little sculpture thing. I think that could go. But when you drive into Timnath, you know.
Yep, the traffic circle, the little traffic circle with the sign in it. Yep.
But didn't you tell Raymond and I that the reason we can't keep the Main Street open right there, there's not enough land area to do both? That's why I thought maybe people need to hear that.
Correct. There are houses that go down past or right at that little traffic circle, so they have to have driveway access. So you can't bring the road that's the parkway right past them because it's too many trips per day to go in front of their house to have them backing out onto Main Street. So the parkway has to move over away from it, and then so that's why you see there's a little cul-de-sac down there actually, and then a little bit further north is where the road Cornhusker, I think is the name of it, will connect. And it's actually built right now. You can see that little stub of the road that goes over, and then there's a little dirt area where it goes across the tracks or across the parkway, and then it goes into the David Weekley homes. So that it just can't physically all happen in that same space. Yeah.
That's what I want to bring across.
Yeah.
It's too tight.
Yeah.
They might not be aware of
Correct. And the parkway is going to be 4-lane road. So, I mean, I don't want to equate it necessarily to Harmony Road, but it's close to what Harmony Road looks like right now. So Harmony Road is 4 lanes with a median in the middle. The parkway is going to be 4 lanes with a median in the middle and bike lanes on either side. So that's, the parkway is going to be of that magnitude. Is that a fair statement, Don? Yep.
Another idea, sorry. I think it was in the dream package. Didn't they think about possibilities of restaurant or something along the river?
Yeah, there, and in the comp plan, there is a little area that's called the River District, because there's a lot of property that's still undeveloped as you head out on 3rd Avenue, actually on the south sides of the tracks. You head to the west on 3rd Avenue, there's large properties there, and then there's a storage yard that's currently sitting there that over time is probably not the highest and best use of that property. So there may be opportunities for that to redevelop. It was a vision at that time that was put in place, and as change happens, it may look like something different.
I have a personal burning question about Sweatsville Zoo, and if the town is in any conversations with preserving those statues, reappropriating them, creating creative art spaces, or anything with that. Do you guys know anything about how they're going to have a private auction? Okay, thank you. And is the town interested or a part of preserving that part of Timnath and that history?
It's actually in Larimer County right now. The property is, and they would have to annex to the town. What we've heard from the potential buyer, which is under contract now, that they were actually going to purchase the sculptures as part of the project. So there has been ideas thrown out that the town may get involved, but there's lots of liability and costs associated with those sculptures. So it's a challenge, to say the least.
Let's thank our guests tonight for coming and answering our questions.